Welcome back, everybody. It's that Lone Wolf Carter guy, that Harold Sanford Carter III guy, that www.witchcrafttv.online guy with that Lone Wolf special series for the WitchCon presenters of 2026. And I got a special guest backstage all the way from Portugal. But before we bring him on, we're going to play that intro. We'll see you right back. André Consciência coming from Portugal. I heard a rumor that you're going to be on WitchCon 2026. Is that true?
That is true, indeed.
So how did you get involved or find WitchCon? Have you been to New Orleans? How did you get involved with that particular platform? Because WitchCon online is the largest conglomeracy of witches and magic users in the world. So how did you get involved in that?
I was actually contacted by Brian. I didn't know of it before, and I found it interesting immediately, and was introduced to the world of Brian and his publishing houses, etc. So I joined, and this will be my third time in WitchCon, and I was also once at Spectral Evidence.
So this will be your third time presenting. To tell me about the kind of presentations that you presented to your audience, the first couple classes with WitchCon, and tell me about your class that's going to be happening, I think in a week and a half.
So the first class I gave was about neo-shamanism. Mm-hmm. And it makes me presenting directly with some videos from a course that I have online at Perseus Arcane Academy. And the second one was about a book I have, The Dragon Tarot, the Inner Circle and Triangle. This is a book that it's not a regular tarot. You build, there is a tarot indeed in the book, but it teaches you to build your own tarot and to animate this tarot as a small, or not that small, like an army of elementaries or servitors. And also it teaches you how to build the fluid condensers and everything necessary, and the metals and so on, to attract this power and contain it. Also, the way to cast the tarot in there is more like conjuring. It's not divination, it's more like conjuring events, conjuring the future. But this wasn't in the class itself. But the book ends with a grimoire. It's the second half of the book, a grimoire on the dragon traditions, European and Asian, and a way to work with them, not so much traditionally when it comes to the East, but through hermetic means. Now the class that I will be giving this time is about Inanna or Ishtar, and it's not so. I will give an article and speak a little more academically about Inanna, but the main thing in this class is an attunement, like I'm not sure I like the comparison, but a bit like the attunements that take place in Reiki. They don't call it initiation, they call it attunement. And the thing I intend to do is to transmit kind of magical flow that has to do with magical desire, specifically as it connects to this deity, and to pass this on to people. And that's the main premise.
So are you connected with are you familiar with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn?
Yes, I used to practice their system, and before I met the system of Franz Bardon, but I kept practicing also in parallel the Golden Dawn as it was accessible.
When you say accessible, do you mean what was publicly available in manuscripts?
Yes, yes, because by then the Golden Dawn itself as an order was no longer operational.
Is the Golden Dawn still unoperational? Do they still have charters of the Golden Dawn?
They have, but they don't operate in the sense that there's no longer anyone doing initiations and supervising. It's more like a community that built around what the Golden Dawn was at the time. And I was directly also involved with the Thelemic Golden Dawn, but that's a different system. It's inspired on the traditional Golden Dawn, but with some adaptations. That
now,
was operational.
When you say Thelemic or Thelema, the first thing that pops in my head is Alicia Crowley.
Yes, he is the founder.
So you're actively involved in Thelema today?
More or less. I mean, yes, but not with the community itself, except when it comes to the vein of people like Nema and Ahadna and the Mahatyan current inside Thelema, and Kenneth Grant, the Tifunian current. Mostly this, I am an inner council member of the Horus Maat Lodge. It is considered a Thelemic lodge, but nothing to do with what the Ordo Templi Orientis became, or even Astrum Argentum is today. It's less hierarchical and freer in the way you operate through magic. And the Horus Maat Lodge in itself is more of a lodge than an order. Supposedly, when you join, you are already an adept and are not being trained to become an adept. Although we don't reject people that are not adepts yet.
Can you explain to me what it means to be a lodge and what it means to be part of an order?
Yeah, in the way I was putting it, so an order is a structure of initiation, which also exists in the Horus Maat Lodge, but it is a formal structure. And you have someone to give you the titles and so on. And in the case of the lodge, the main premise is adepts coming from different systems. They gather together to work certain goals and have things accomplished. And in we do have the lodge mandala, which gives you a kind of a guideline to initiate yourself into our current. And we guide people, we answer questions, we are there for them, but we are not exactly allowing them to pass from one grade to another or denying them. We are more like older brothers that are there for them. And in a classical order, it's it's much more about status. Maybe that's the main difference.
As far as your patron deities or deities that you work with, who do you work with exclusively?
Me personally, or within the, or are we still talking about the lodge?
Well, both. What does your lodge? What deities do your lodge work with exclusively, and also on a personal level, what deities do you walk with?
Okay, concerning the lodge, we are eclectic, but we have central deities, and that's, as the name implies, Horus and Maat. And the combination, how one balances the other. Now, me personally, I throughout life, I've been practicing this since my 13 years, and I have worked with a lot of deities, but I have my personal deities. I mean, one masculine and one feminine, and they are from different pantheons. So the Greek god Pan is my personal deity, and when it comes to the feminine, it's Inanna indeed. Why also I chose to give this class about her, to honor her. And in terms of currents, you know, beyond what we're talking about, like the lodge and so on, my central current is like a spinal bone that allows me to move to other currents, and I don't always like to say traditions, but schools. My main tradition, in this case, tradition is Hermeticism, and in this regard, Thoth or Hermes. But I address, I prefer Thoth.
I like Thoth too. Tell me, is Hermes and Thoth the same deity?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't put it like that. But they represent the same principle. So the deities, to me, how I have come to learn about them in my experience, the deities, they are intelligent and living principles, and they have their own individuality in this sense. It's a cosmic individuality, but individuality. And but they are not only the principles. What gives them personality are the cultural aspects. The principles exist cosmically, archetypically, and in nature itself, in the material world. But then the cultural aspects, there are nuances that make all the difference, and manifests to me is not exactly how Hermes manifests. Maybe the teachings are similar, but the spices are very different in this cooking, so to speak.
If one of our viewers were interested in a hermetic lodge, particularly the lodge that you facilitate or a part of, what would be the vetting process if they were like, you know what, I really want to learn hermetics? How would I get involved in your lodge? How would they do that? Do you have a website?
Oh yeah, it's Horus Maat Lodge.com, and there is an email there, and a Facebook group, and for people in general, and then there is a private mailing list for initiates, to which you are invited. And at the present moment, that's mainly that. Also, there is the if you want to know more, the website has a lot of material, but if you want to be even more comprehensive about it, there's there's the Grimoire of the Lodge, published through Black Moon Publishing. So it's called the Horus Maat Lodge, a Grimoire of Pan-Ionic Magic.
Are you a published author yourself?
Yes.
Can you tell me about
yes,
the first? Tell me about the first book that you wrote and was published.
The first one, I mean, I wrote some books in Portuguese. I've been writing since 2000 and publishing since 2008, but in English, my first published book, if I remember correctly, because sometimes we write books in a certain order, but they are published in different times. The first one to be published was, I believe, The Way of Abrahadabra. Although I wrote Through the Soul Mirror to the Sphere of the Sun first. But yeah, The Way of Abrahadabra, it was published via Sirius Limited Esoterica and has now the second edition through Black Moon Publishing, the same publishing house I was referring to when it came to the Grimoire of the Horus Maat Lodge. And this is the Way of Abrahadabra is a book that, you know, one thing I do not like about Thelema is I have cultural associations that dedicate to the subcultures, but I do not like the Thelemic subculture. It's full of intrigue, and I don't even know how they have time to practice and to train with so much intrigue. And this comes from vices within this subculture that have become doctrinal and are not really a part of what could be considered the doctrine of Thelema itself. And part of it is the same problem that happens with other established and well-organized and already large religions. It's all about ego. And so and that comes from the religion, from this passion that religion incites, and religion is different from religiosity. So I stripped in this book. I tried to do that, to strip the religious aspects of Thelema and addressed it as an hermetic system, a practical system. Operational, and removed all those relative beliefs. That was the premise behind The Way of Abrahadabra. But it came out quite an it has the Thelemic principles behind it, but the form is quite original. It's a bit something new.
What's your opinion about the 7 hermetic laws?
As they come from interesting question, because in this I have an answer that is different than what people may expect. In terms of the Kybalion, it is, according to my knowledge, the first book that mentions them in an organized way. The Kybalion is not really, I give it to them, this is not a traditional book, and it lied about its origins, although that was actually a tradition even when Hermeticism began. They would alter the books from someone from Egypt and so on, when these were Greek philosophers mostly that were publishing centuries after what they claimed. that was a move to give credibility and to a movement and make it known and create a movement. I understand that. Now the Kybalion this is not. What is hermetic about the Kybalion is that it studies nature and derives philosophical principles from it. And that's the hermetic methodology, even in the old times. I do consider it an hermetic book still. And practically speaking, I mean, it's hard to deny that the 7 hermetic laws exist and operate. We see them, and even logically, we cannot deny them. Now, are they very useful in terms of magic? Only if you know enough from other books. The Kybalion doesn't teach you how to become competent in magic in any way, but it does give some lights to the beginner, I believe.
So it's when speaking about the 7 hermetic laws, do you feel that those 7 hermetic laws are immutable? And when I mean immutable, meaning you can't argue with them, there's no argument, it's just something that is.
Yeah, so far, yes. There are, even because, even we could say that as science evolves, we may find things to contradict these thoughts put into transformed into laws of the universe. But the thing is, the book itself, it is so modern, contrary to what was claimed originally, that it includes quantum theory. So it's in the front line of scientific development. Maybe not for long, but so far, yes. I can say if in the future we will gain tools to contradict these laws. But for now, yeah, I don't. I have never found a way to contradict him that is very plausible.
I really like that answer. So as of right now, you feel that you can't argue with the immutable hermetic laws right now, but that doesn't mean in the future, as evolution happens, as science happens, as people elevate more, that maybe somebody might be able to contradict them in the future. But as right now, it's kind of, you can't. I like that. That's really that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Is well, if we talk about the deity Horus, now from what I understand, Horus, I mean, most of what I've read about Horus, because I'm not really an adept, there's a lot of areas in the occult that I haven't really ingested, but I read a lot about Horus in the Book of the Law from the OTO with Crowley wrote it, but he went by a pen name as he signed the book as the Baphomet wrote it, like signed the Baphomet, but that's the author of the Book of the Law, and he talked a lot about Horus there, being like the age of Horus, like the age of Aquarius, and then we're moving into the age of Horus. Do you think that we are in the age of Horus right now? And I just recently had a ceremonial magician on the station a couple of years back, and his name was Lon Milo Duquette, and he had a lot of good insights on this whole concept. But I really would like to hear your mind about what Horus is, and are we in the active age of a Horus right now?
So Horus Horus is this force that destroys barriers, so the spirit can expand, and this has a lot of different consequences throughout different stages. For instance, in the Horus Maat Lodge, we try to protect ourselves in the world as far as possible from the negative effects by making Horus into a sort of antibody of Mahat, because he's the warrior aspect who fights oppression and who allows the mind to expand, the consciousness to expand. But through truth, the truth of Mahat in this case. Now, removing Mahat from the equation, because Crowley, explaining why Mahat is here in terms of ions, of ages, Crowley found or wrote that the age of, according to the Golden Dawn, that the age of Mahat would come after the age of Horus. But we are in a threshold of sorts. So the age before the age of Horus is the age of Osiris, or Ion of Osiris. And according to Crowley, he doesn't like this age very much, because he shows himself as the prophet that comes against that age to establish a new age. However, as all ions, this ion has very pure aspects and negative aspects when was still immature and when it was declining. And the same with with Horus as an ion. So we are at the end of the age of Osiris and transiting to the age of Horus. So Osiris, in its decline, is exacerbated hierarchy and authoritarianism and doctrine, it manifests oppression, and Horus counters it. However, Horus in its beginning is also very childish, and probably names this aeon the aeon of the conquering child, the crowned and conquering child. This has two aspects to it. So the child in its maturity is purity, innocence. So there is no sin anymore. It's like you are recovering Eden in a way. But in its immature aspects, the child is exactly the uncontrolled, unaware ego. And so this is also an age of eccentric people leading all countries and doing all sorts of childish things that affect everyone. So there comes an oppression from this as well. And I think that's where we are at. So it's not such an easy time, because we are absorbing negative aspects from both ions at this point.
Thank you so much for your insight. I have one more question as we wrap up the interview and the show. Lovely presenter, Andrea Consciência, is going to be presenting at WitchCon, the largest conglomeracy of magic users and witches and African hoodoos and voodoos and all the magic users on the biggest in the world. And I'm so glad that you're going to be there representing Portugal and things. My last question is, if somebody came to you and they were a neophyte, a novice, a beginner, somebody very young, they are walking a path and they want to be and learn and grow as a hermetic magician, and they say, what is your best advice to me? What would you tell them?
Okay. The best advice I would say is wonderment. That one can marvel at things. That one can. I see. I teach and give. I have courses, ongoing courses, and I also give one-on-one tuition. And one of the more hazardous things I see happening to to beginners is that there is something that at some point they began to feel the pressure of something. And I mean, this is something alternative. It's not exactly like within society in plain view. So this pressure is probably caused by some traumas that we have, and not directly from this tradition, but it's isolated and suffers from no outside pressure, at least if you are walking alone, even if with friends and people who are more experienced. What happens is from this pressure, they start to do things out of obligation, fear of failure, and they start to count their training in terms of hours. And I mean, you are supposed to forget about time when you are practicing, and you are supposed to be having the time of your life. That's how you put your whole soul into the magic you are doing. And that's how magic works. It cannot work otherwise. So you need to really be allow yourself to be amazed, to live what you are doing, and that will quicken your progress in incommensurable ways. This is really important. And um, I also have a lot of people like for instance, Franz Bardon, initiation into hermetics. And I have a lot of people coming from Franz Bardon because this is one of my mains. This is a system I have really mastered. And the whole book speaks, imagination must be the word that is more often in that book. And people still come to me and say, how do I know if I am really doing this or imagining? Am I deluding myself? And there's a big ontological problem, systematic here, that when you put together imagination with delusion, you are self-sabotaging all of your magic already. The magic is imagination coming into reality and influencing reality and creating reality, yours and even others' realities. So when you put delusion into that, you have corrupted the whole process. Delusion is something else. Is when you do not act according to the laws, in the sense that there are contradictions within your thinking, within your desires. You have not mastered yourself, and your subconscious and your conscious are enemies of each other. So you are tricking yourself and your magic doesn't work. But that's not because you are imagining. The thing is, you must embrace imagination with such intensity that there's nothing else, and it is more real than this reality. And from there on, you can do wonderful things that have palpable effects, tangible, that you can measure.
André Consciência, thank you so much for coming on the Lone Wolf Show on Witchcraft TV, and I look forward to seeing you at WitchCon. Make sure you check out our guests' books and publications at Black Moon Publishing, and also their lodge, Horus Maat Lodge.com. You can also check them out at witchcon.com. In about 8 days for when the whole presenter series starts. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll see you at WitchCon.
Thank you.
Merry part for now. Many blessings. 93s across the board. Namaste to you, good sir. And from America to Portugal, be well.
Love and will.